Hey guys, tonight we are going to do some work. Proper, hard, back-minus breaking work. We're stepping into the grime and the glory of a Viking age forge. A place that smells of hot metal, sweat, and just a hint of something that feels an awful lot like magic. Tonight, you're not a king or a warrior. You are the beating heart of the settlement. The one who makes all that raiding and farming possible. Honestly, the chances of getting a nasty burn are about 100%, and your ears will probably be ringing for a week. But the satisfaction of creation is a reward all its own. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It helps these stories find other people who might need a quiet escape. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is in your corner of the world. I love picturing you all, scattered across the globe, listening in the dark. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your world is a bubble of heat, enclosed by low walls of turf and stone. The air is thick enough to chew, a cocktail of charcoal smoke, the sharp metallic tang of hot iron, and the faint, earthy smell of the damp ground outside. This is your forge, your kingdom. It's a dim, grimy space, open on one side to the often minus grey skies of your fjord-minus-side village. But the real light, the real life, comes from the heart of it or your furnace. It is a simple, stone hearth, glowing with a malevolent, hungry orange. Its lifeblood is the charcoal you spend days preparing, a slow, smoky process that turns good hardwood into the fuel your furnace craves. Its lungs are the pair of large, leather bellows that stand beside it, connected by a wooden handle. Your young apprentice, Lars, who is mostly elbows and feet, pumps them with a steady, rhythmic push and pull. Whoosh minus F whoosh minus F womb. The sound is the breath of the beast, and with each exhale, the charcoal heart glows hotter, whiter, a furious, captured star. You stand before it, the heat of physical presence against your face and arms. You are covered in a fine layer of soot. Your leather apron is scarred with burns, and your hands are a landscape of calluses, old scars, and fresh burns you've already stopped noticing. This is the price of your trade. Your raw material is not the clean, uniform steel of a later age. You work with bloomery iron, a spongy, inconsistent mass that you yourself have smelted from bog iron. Bog iron, or MYMon, is a strange thing. It's not mined from mountains. It's harvested from the marshes and the beds of shallow lakes. Like a lumpy, rusty potato, it's a gift from the earth, but a grudging one, full of impurities and slag that you must beat and fold out of it. You take a piece of this hard minus, one iron with a long pair of tongs, and thrust it into the glowing heart of the furnace. Now, you wait. You watch the color. This is your art, your science, judging the temperature of the metal not by a gauge, but by its shade. You wait for it to move past the dull red, past the cherry, to the bright, sun minus like yellow minus orange, that tells you it is ready, that it is soft, that it is willing to change. This ability to transform a rusty rock into a gleaming, useful object is what gives you your unique place in the village. You are not a farmer, bound to the soil. You are not a warrior, bound to the jar airless winds. You are a master of a fundamental secret. You are a smith. This special status is something historians are still trying to fully understand. Were you seen as just another skilled craftsman, like a carpenter or a boat-minus builder? Or was there an element of the supernatural to your trade? Many argue that blacksmiths in this era were viewed with a mixture of respect and fear, as figures who dealt in a kind of powerful, elemental magic. Their forge is a bridge between the human world and the fiery realms of the dwarves and giants from the old stories. You feel both sides of it. When your arm aches and your eyes sting from the smoke, it feels like nothing more than hard, dirty work. But when you pull that glowing piece of iron from the fire, blazing and alive in the gloom of your forge, you feel it, the magic, the power. You swing the incandescent metal onto your anvil, a massive, solid block of iron that is the altar of your church, and the music begins. Clang, clang, clang. Your hammer is not just a tool. It is an extension of your arm, your will. You strike with a rhythm that is as ingrained in you as your own heartbeat. A hard blow to shape, a series of lighter, quicker blows to smooth, a turn of the metal with the tongs. Clang, clang, clang. Norse, at the bellows, matches your rhythm. The whoosh minus F will a counterpoint to your hammer minus song. You are not making anything grand today. No pattern minus welded sword for a chieftain. No ornate helmet for a raider. Today, you are making nails, dozens and dozens of them, for the new boat being built down at the shore. It is simple, repetitive, that vital word. Every strike is precise. You hammer the glowing rod into a square shank, then use a cutter on your anvil to form the point. You then place the hot shank into a nail minus header, a block with a hole in it, and with a final, sharp blow, you form the nail's head. You quench it in a trough of water with a satisfying, angry hiss, and toss the finished nail into a wooden bucket. 1 down, 90 minus 9 to go. This is your world, the heat, the smoke, the sweat, the steady rhythm of creation. It is a life of immense labor, but also one of deep, quiet satisfaction. You take that which is hard and unyielding, and you give it a new form, a new purpose. You are a maker, and as long as men need axes and women need pots, as long as ships need nails and warriors need swords, your fire will never go out. The satisfying clang of your hammer on hot iron is a song you know by heart. You are halfway through a bucket of nails, a mindless, rhythmic task that allows your thoughts to drift. Your forge is its own small world, a bubble of heat and purposeful noise in the cool, damp air of the fjord. The whoosh minus F womb of the bellows, the hiss of hot metal quenching in water, the steady beat of your hammer. This is your peace. The peace is shattered by a sudden gust of wind and a blast of youthful indignation. A young man stands at the entrance to your forge, blocking the grey light. It's Olaf, son of Eric, a boy who has just seen his first 2 summers as a warrior. He has the beginnings of a beard that he is very proud of, and the furious posture of a man who has been practicing his angry entrance. In his hand, he holds a sword, or rather, a sword minus shaped object. He takes 3 long strides forward and, with a grunt of disgust, throws it on to the packed minus earth floor between you. Smith, he barks, his voice cracking slightly. Your work is worthless. You stop your hammer mid-minus swing and look down. It's the sword you made for him just before the last raiding season. A good, solid blade, or at least, it was. Now, it has a distinct, sorrowful curve to it, as if it's trying to look over its own shoulder. It's not broken, it's just bent. You let out a slow breath, a puff of air that disturbs the soot on a nearby pile of tools. You've seen this before. You pick up the sword. It feels wrong in your hand, the balance completely gone. You run a coal used thumb along the smooth, curved metal. It failed me, Olaf says, puffing out his chest. In the heat of battle, against a Saxon shield minus wall, it bent like a willow branch. It has no courage. This is the most common complaint, and the most fundamental misunderstanding of your craft. You make your swords from bloomery iron, painstakingly folded and hammered to drive out the impurities. It's good, strong iron, but it's not the mythical, magical substance the Skaldes sing about in their poems. This is the central truth of Viking minus age weaponry. Most swords, the common swords wielded by common warriors, were not the invincible, reason minus sharp artifacts of legend. They were tools, and like any tool, they had their limits. It bent. You state simply, looking up at him. Your voice is flat, devoid of surprise. Yes, it bent. It cost me a good share of the loot, having to fight with a crooked blade. You point to the gentle, uniform curve, and did you hit the man's shield with the flat of the blade, or the edge? Olaf sputters. It was a mighty blow. A flat blow, you say. You tried to smash his shield, instead of cutting it, or you parried a blow from his axe with the wrong part of the sword. The iron did exactly what it was supposed to do. You decide to give him the lecture. You give it to all the young ones eventually. Iron has a spirit. Boy, it can be strong, or it can be hard. It is very, very difficult to make it both. This blade, you say, tapping the bent metal, is strong. It has courage. It bent so it would not shatter. A bent sword can be straightened in the field. A warrior with a bent sword is still a warrior. A warrior with a hilt and halves of a broken blade is a dead man. Which would you rather be? The historical debate around this is endless. Scholars argue passionately about the quality of Viking swords, particularly the difference between locally made blades like yours and the legendary elf BRHT swords, which were made of a high-carbon crucible steel that was almost magical in its properties. No one is entirely sure how that steel was made or where it all came from, but men who owned one were said to be nearly invincible. You've only ever seen one, owned by the Jarl, and its dark, patterned metal seemed to drink the light. But Olaf, son of Eric, cannot afford an elf BRHT. He can afford your good, honest, bendable iron. There's also the practical, unspoken knowledge that this boy lacks. A seasoned warrior, finding his blade bent after a clumsy blow, would know what to do. He'd either find a log or a rock, place the sword on it, and carefully, deliberately, step on it to straighten it out. It was a common field repair. The fact that Olaf ran all the way home to complain to you speaks volumes about his experience, or lack thereof. I can fix this, you say, your tone softening slightly. I will heat it, gently, to a twilight red. I will straighten it on the anvil. I will harden the edge, but leave the spine soft and strong. It will be a good sword again. You toss the blade onto a pile of other repairs. It will cost you a good side of bacon and 2 bushels of charcoal. Olaf's face falls. The righteous anger has evaporated, replaced by the sullen look of a boy who has just been told to do his chores. He grumbles as a sentence stomps out of your forge, his dignity slightly more bent than his sword. You shake your head, a small smile playing on your lips. You pick up your hammer. Just another Tuesday. You go back to nail number 50-7. Clang. The afternoon sun, a rare and welcome visitor, casts a long, dusty beam of light into your forge. The bucket of nails is nearly full. You're looking forward to the quiet satisfaction of finishing a job, of wiping the soot from your hands and enjoying a horn of ale by your own hearth. That's when you hear the shuffling. It's a slow, deliberate sound, not the angry stomp of a warrior, but the heavy, weary tread of a man whose life is tied to the soil. Bjorn the farmer stands at the entrance to your forge. He is a man as solid and gnarled as the trees he spends his life felling. He holds a new axe in his hand, its ash handle pale and clean, the headed all, polished wedge of iron. You recognize it immediately. It's one of yours. You'd finished it for him just a week ago. He doesn't throw it down. He holds it with a strange mixture of reverence and disappointment, as if it were a beloved dog that had refused to learn a new trick. Smith, he says, his voice a low rumble. There is something wrong with this axe. You take a deep breath. You know Bjorn. He is a good man, a fair man. This is not the complaint of an ignorant youth. This is something different. What is wrong with it? Bjorn, you ask, laying your hammer down gently. Is the edge not keen? Does the handle not fit your grip? No, he says, shaking his head. The edge is sharp enough to shave a troll's eyelash. The handle feels like it grew in my own hand. He pauses, searching for the right words, a look of deep concentration on his broad face. It won't bite. You frown. It won't bite? What do you mean? I mean it won't bite. He repeats, with more emphasis. I took it to the old oak, the one on the north side of the creek, the one the lightning struck 2 winters ago. A normal axe, a good axe, when it strikes true wood like that, it sings. You feel it in your arms, a deep thrum, a happy sound. It bites into the wood. This one, he looks down at the axe with a sorrowful expression. This one just thuds. A dead sound. It chips the wood, but it has no hunger for it. It has no soul. You are now in a territory that has nothing to do with metallurgy and everything to do with the deep, animistic beliefs that govern your world. You have not failed as a smith. You have failed as a magician. The concept that inanimate objects, particularly weapons and important tools, could have their own will, their own spirit, is a cornerstone of your culture. The great swords in the Sagas all have names like -biter, -shredder, C-King's flame. This was just poetic fancy. It was a reflection of a belief that a well-made object absorbed a piece of its maker's spirit, and the spirit of the materials it was made from. You take the axe from him, you run your thumb over the edge. It is, as he said, perfectly sharp. You check the balance. It is perfect. You look at the dark grey of the iron. You remember making it. You had been rushed that day, trying to finish a set of spearheads for a trader. You had worked quickly, efficiently, your mind on the next job. You had not sung the song. This is a part of your craft you never speak of, not even to your apprentice. There are songs for the forge, not loud, boisterous drinking songs, but quiet, guttural chants. A song for waking the iron in the fire, a song for folding the steel, a song for the quench, a final, sharp verse to trap the spirit of the fire in the water in the blade. You had been in a hurry. You had made an axe, but you had forgotten to give it a voice. The historical debate around this is fascinating. Did Viking age blacksmiths genuinely perform magical rituals during their work, or are these stories later romantic additions? While there's no written manual for magical smithing, the prevalence of these beliefs in the sagas and folklore suggests that, at the very least, the idea of the smith as a magician was powerful and widespread. The line between a master craftsman and a worker of magic was blurry, perhaps even non-existent. You also recall a strange, specific piece of lore. It said that for a felling axe to have a truly hungry spirit, a small piece of iron from a wolf's tooth, or better yet, a chip of a whetstone a wolf had been seen licking, should be forged into the bit. It was a kind of sympathetic magic, giving the axe the wolf's unending hunger for a bite. You hadn't done that. Of course, that was for special, ceremonial axes, not a common wood chopper. I see the problem. You say to Bjorn, your voice low. You do not explain the details. A magician never reveals his tricks. The spirit has not yet woken. It is a sleepy axe. You hold the axe head up, looking at it intently. You hum a low note, a single, deep tone that makes the air in the forge vibrate. You run your hand over the cool, smooth metal, a gesture that is both an inspection and a blessing. Leave it with me, you tell him. It needs to sleep in the embers of a new fire. I will wake it at sunrise tomorrow. Come back then. It will be hungry. Urnes' face floods with relief. He understands. He is not questioning your skill, just your process. He nods gratefully, thanks you, and shuffles out of the forge, leaving the soulless axe behind. You look at the axe. You will do as you promised. You will let it sit in the cooling embers of 2 nights' fire. And in the morning, before laws arise, you will heat it again, just to a dull, blood red, and as you hold it in the fire, you will sing the proper song to it. The old words, the deep chant that speaks of the bite of the winter wind and the strength of the mountain stone. It is a foolish superstition. Perhaps, or perhaps, it is the most important part of the whole process. The problem of the soulless axe has been solved. You sang the proper song. Bjorn is now happily felling his ancient oak, and you have been paid in a wheel of excellent, sharp cheese. Your world has returned to its normal, smoky equilibrium. The equilibrium doesn't last long. A few days later, a different kind of customer arrives. This is not a warrior with a grievance or a farmer with a metaphysical complaint. This is wealth. His name is Cathedral, and he is the richest landowner in the fjord, a man whose family has been here since the first settlers arrived. He doesn't come to your forge. He sends a servant to summon you to his longhouse, a privilege he reserves for those he deems important enough not to be seen queuing. You wipe the worst of the soot from your face, put on a cleaner tunic, and walk up the hill to his sprawling homestead. The longhouse is magnificent, the dark wood of its walls covered in intricate carvings of dragons and serpents. The air inside is thick with the smell of wood smoke, roasted meat, and muddy. Potato is waiting for you in the high seat. He is a large man, his beard threaded with silver, his arms heavy with gold and silver or minus rings. He dismisses his servants with a wave of his hand, leaving the two of you alone in the vast. Fire minus little. Smith, he says, his voice a low, confidential rumble. I have a problem, a family problem. You wait, silent. This doesn't sound like a request for a new sword. It's my grandfather, Cathedral says, leaning forward. The old man. He won't stay put. You frown. Your grandfather. But he has been dead for 5 winters. Exactly. Cathedral slams a fist on the arm of his chair. He has been walking. The milkmaids have seen him in the pastures, his burial shroud trailing in the mist. The cattle are spew. One of the trowels was found dead with the blue marks of the corpse minus plague on him. The dry Volgastar is out. Your blood runs a little colder. The Doctor Volgastar. The walking dead. This is one of the deepest and most terrifying fears of your people. Not a ghostly apparition, but a physical, reanimated corpse, filled with a malevolent intelligence and superhuman strength. They are known to haunt their own burial mounds, jealously guarding their treasure and bringing ruin to the living who disturb them. We have tried everything. Cathedral continues, his voice hushed. We have sacrificed the bull. The priest has spoken the words over his burial mound. But the old man was stubborn in life, and he is even more stubborn in death. He keeps coming back to this house. We hear him at the door at night, scratching, whispering. The historical reality of the Dr. Augustar is a fascinating window into the Viking mind. It wasn't just a monster story. It was a genuine belief that had a real impact on burial practices and social behavior. Archaeologists have found graves where the corpses were staked down, decapitated, or had large rocks placed on their chests. These were all practical, post-mortem attempts to prevent the dead from walking. The fear was very, very real. So, Cathedral says, his eyes locking onto yours. I need a lock. A lock? You ask, confused. Yes, a lock for the main door of this house, but not just any lock. I need a smith's saw. I need a lock forged with iron and fire and magic. A lock that can hold back not just a living thief, but a dead one. I want you to make me a Dr. Hogestar minus lock. You are now in the realm of pure, supernatural engineering. The request is both practical and deeply magical. A standard wooden or iron lock was meant to keep the living out. A dry Hogestar minus lock needed to be something more. It needed to be a spiritual barrier. A strange, niche piece of smithing lore comes to mind. A whisper of a tale about how to imbue iron with power over the undead. The secret, it was said, was in the quench, the final, cooling plunge of the hot metal. It shouldn't be quenched in plain water, for a lock meant to bind the dead. It should be quenched in the water collected from the dew of a yew tree in a graveyard, mixed with the blood of a black ram. It was a dark and potent magic, one you have never attempted. The iron must be special, you say, your mind already working, thinking of the right combination of hard and soft iron for the mechanism. The runes carved upon it must be chosen with care. Do what you must, Cathedral says, his desperation clear, and use this. He reaches into a pouch and pulls out something that makes you gasp. It is a large, twisted, ancient piece of iron. It's a hinge minus spin from an old church door, looted from a raid in the Westlands decades ago. They say this foreign god has power over spirits. Forge this into the lock. Let the god fight my grandfather. The irony is immense. This Christian artifact, a symbol of a faith meant to supplant the old ways, is now being repurposed as a magical component in a pagan ritual to imprison a Viking zombie. It's a perfect example of the pragmatist of the age, the messy, practical way your people adopted and adapted foreign ideas. The academic debate rages on did the Vikings see Christian symbols as spiritually potent in their own right, or did they just see them as exotic, powerful magic to be added to their existing toolkit? Looking at the desperate hope in Cathedral's eyes, you suspect it's the latter. I will do it, you say, but the price will be high. The work is dangerous. The spirits do not like being bound. Name it, he says simply. You do. The price you name is enough to feed your family for a full year. Cotito doesn't even blink. He just nods. You leave the longhouse, the heavy, sacred iron of the church hinge in your hands. You are not just a smith anymore. You are an exorcist, and you have a very, very unusual job order to fill. The weight of the Doctor of August, a minus lock project, settles on your shoulders. It's not a normal job. It feels different, heavier. The air in your forge seems to carry a new tension. You find yourself glancing at the shadows more often, and you make sure lowers. Your apprentice stokes the fire a little higher than usual, as if the extra light could ward off the unseen. You are in the middle of sketching out the lock mechanism on a piece of slate when she arrives. You don't hear her approach. One moment the doorway is empty. The next, she is simply there, a silent, sudden presence that makes the hairs on your arms stand up. She is the village Sarkonar, the female shaman, the practitioner of the old magic code. Her name is Runa, and she is a woman who lives on the edge of things, on the edge of the village, on the edge of society, and, most people whisper, on the edge of the spirit world. She is old, her face a roadmap of wrinkles, but her eyes are sharpened and her vingle bright. She carries a long, slender staff of dark wood. "Smith," she says, her voice a dry rustle, like leaves skittering across frozen ground. She does not wait for a reply. "I need you to make me something." You nod, gesturing for her to continue, your heart beating a little faster. A request from the side corner is never a simple one. She holds up her staff. "My staff is old. Its spirit grows weary. I need a new one, a distillation, an iron focus for the high seat." This is a direct glimpse into the practice of Norse magic. Seiðr was a powerful and controversial form of prophecy and spell minus casting. Historical sources, like the Sagas, describe it in detail, but there's a huge debate about its exact nature and social standing. It was often considered unmanly for men to practice, yet it gave its female practitioners immense power and influence. To be asked to forge a part of these rituals is to be invited into the very heart of the village's spiritual life. "I need it forged from 3 different irons," she continues, her bright eyes fixed on you. "The iron of a farmer's plow, to speak to the spirits of the land. The iron of a warrior's soul, to command the spirits of the air. And," she pauses, "the iron of a chain that has bound a captive, to understand the secrets of binding and unbinding." Her request is a poem of sympathetic magic. Each ingredient is chosen for its essence, its history, its story. This is a level of magical craftsmanship far beyond Bjorn's hungry axe. "And," she adds, her voice dropping low, "it must be hollow." You blink. "Hollow?" "Yes, a hollow spindle." For inside, she reaches into a leather pouch at her belt and carefully pulls something out. Wrapped in a piece of clean linen, she unwraps it. Lying in her palm is a small, desiccated object. It takes you a moment to recognize it. It's the heart of a ring. "It must contain this," she says simply, to give it the wren's voice, the bird that can fly between the worlds. You stare at the tiny, mummified heart. This request has just gone from difficult to nearly impossible. Forging a solid iron spindle with the correct mix of metals would be hard enough. Forging it hollow, with a space to insert this fragile, organic component without it being utterly destroyed by the heat, is a task of almost unimaginable skill. This touches on a niche, almost fantastical, element of smithing lore, the idea of box minus, forging or creating hollow vessels. While certainly possible, it was an incredibly advanced technique. To do it on such a small scale, for a magical purpose, elevates the task from craft to high art. The work will be difficult, you say, your mind racing through the technical challenges. The fire must be just so. The quench will be critical. You'll find the way, she says. It is not a vote of confidence. It is a statement of fact. She trusts the magic of your forge as much as you trust the magic of her prophecies. She places the wrapped wren's heart on your anvil. "When the moon is dark," she says, "I will return." And then she is gone, as silently as she arrived. You are left alone in your forge. the echo of her presence still hanging in the air. On one side of your anvil lies the heavy Christian hinge minus bit, meant to bind a Norse zombie. On the other side lies the pagan heart of a tiny bird, meant to give a shaman the power to fly between worlds. You are standing at the crossroads of all the beliefs, fears, and magics of your time. You are no longer just a blacksmith. You are the keeper of sacreds, the weaver of iron destinies, and you have two impossible, contradictory, and deeply magical projects waiting for the fire. The work must begin. The forge feels crowded with ghosts. The spiritual weight of the Draugr minus locking the side corners staff fills the space. A constant, silent pressure. You find yourself working with a new, almost solemn intensity. The familiar ring of your hammer taking on the quality of a ritual chant. You have put both projects aside for a few days, letting the right path to their creation reveal itself in your mind. Sometimes, the most important part of smithing is knowing when not to stray. You turn your attention to a simpler, more mundane task, a way to clear your head. It's a pile of scrap metal that needs to be sorted forged into usable dunnets. Among the pile of old axe heads and broken spear points, you find it a handful of old, rusted chipped nails. They are different from the ones you made. They are thicker, heavier, their heads broadened, slightly domed. You recognize them instantly. They are from the C-serpent, old Irishet, which was broken up for timber last winter after a long and glorious life raiding the coasts of the west. You are about to toss them into the scrap pile when a man appears at your door. It's Finn, a young fisherman whose own small boat is his entire livelihood. He is weary and weather-minus beaten, and he holds his woolen cap in his hands, a gesture of respect that is a welcome change from the demands of warriors and shamans. "Smith," he says, his voice quiet, almost shy. "May I have a word?" You nod, gesturing him in. You can tell from his nervous energy that this is not a simple order for a new fish-hook. "It is my boat," he begins, twisting the cap in his hands. "She is a good boat, strong, but she has no luck. The fish avoid my nets. The wind is always against me. Last week, a rogue wave nearly swamped me in a calm sea. The other men, they say my boat's spirit is weak." You listen patiently. This is the same family of belief as Bjorn's soulless axe, but applied to the most important tool in this fjord-side community, the boat. A Viking longship, or even a small fishing boat like Finn's, was more than a vessel. It was a living entity. It had a name, a personality, a spirit. Its construction was steeped in ritual, from the selection of the trees to the carving of the dragon-head prow. A boat's luck was a crucial, tangible attribute. "I need to strengthen her spirit," Finn says, his eyes darting around your fort. "I need a heart. Yes, an iron heart, a piece of old iron, with a strong history, to nail to the mast, to give my boat the memory of a greater strength." His eyes land on the pile of scrap. He points a trembling finger, like a nail from an old long ship, a nail from a lucky ship. His request is for a talisman, a physical object imbued with the luck and spirit of its past. This belief in the power of reused materials, especially from significant objects like ships or weapons, is a deep undercurrent in your culture. It's a form of recycling that is not just practical, but magical. The history of the object, its monad, its story, could be transferred. The historical debate around this is centered on how literally these beliefs were held. When a Viking warrior was buried with his sword, was it just a status symbol, or was it because they believed the sword's spirit would continue to serve him in the afterlife? When Finn asks for this nail, is he being poetic, or does he genuinely believe this single piece of iron can change his fortune? Looking at the desperate hope in his eyes, you know it is the latter. You think of the C-serpent. It was a famously lucky ship. It had survived storms that had sent other boats to the bottom. It had carried its crew home from a dozen raids, heavy with silver and stories. It had a powerful spirit. A nail from its hull would be a potent piece of magic indeed. There is a very specific and rather odd piece of nautical folklore you recall. It's said that when dismantling an old ship, the nails that were driven in below the waterline were considered the most magically potent. They had spent their lives submerged in the sea, listening to the ocean's secrets, and had absorbed its power. The nails in your pile are rusted, but you can't know for certain which ones came from where. You want one of these nails, you ask, picking one up. It is cold and heavy in your palm. Finn nods eagerly. Yes, I will pay. I have a small string of amber. You look at the young man. You see his worn clothes, his hopeful, anxious face. You think of the amber, likely the only bit of portable wealth he owns. You look at the pile of nails. To you, they are scrap by, worth little more than the heat it would take to reforge them. To him, they are the key to his survival. You make a decision. You rummage through the pile, your fingers searching. You are not looking for the biggest nail or the straightest. You are looking for the one that feels right. You pick one out. It has a slight curve to it, and the rust has formed a pattern that looks almost like a coiling serpent. It feels significant. You hold it out to him. This one, you say, your voice firm, as if you have just performed a complex diagnostic. This nail was driven near the keel. It steered the ship. It carries the spirit of the serpent itself. Nail it to your mast, point it forward, and the sea will see you as one of its own. You have just invented a history for this piece of iron, but you know that the story is as important as the object. Finn's face lights up with pure, unadulterated joy. He reaches for the nail as if it were a holy relic. He offers you his string of amber, but you hold up a hand and shake your head. No payment, you say. The sea-serpent spirit is not for sale. But, you add, when your nets are full again, bring me a share of your first good catch. Finn stammers his thanks, his eyes shining with tears of gratitude. He clutches the nail to his chest and practically runs from your forge, a man whose fortune has just turned. You watch him go, a warmth spreading through your own chest that has nothing to do with the fire. You have not forged a single thing, but you have just done some of your most important work. You have forged hope. The warmth from your act of charity for Finn the fisherman lingers longer than the heat from the forge. For a few days, the world feels simple and right. You are a good smith. You make good things. You help your people. It is a satisfying, uncomplicated feeling. But your world is never uncomplicated for long. One evening, after the sun has long since bled out behind the dark peaks of the fjord, and you are cleaning your tools for the night, a figure appears at your door. He is a silhouette against the deep twilight, but there is no mistaking the broad shoulders and the spear held with casual authority. It is one of the Draugr house girls, his personal retainers. He does not greet you. He does not ask. He commands. The jar will see you. You nod, your heart giving a familiar, heavy thump. A summons from Jarl Sigurd is never for a trivial matter. You quickly wash your hands and face in the water trough, trying to scrub away the day's grime, and follow the silent house girl up the muddy track to the great longhouse that dominates the village. The Jarl's hall is quiet. The long hearth-minus fires are burning low, casting flickering, monstrous shadows up the carved wooden pillars. Most of the household is asleep. Sigurd is waiting for you, not in his high seat of judgment, but on a simple stool by the fire, a horn of mead in his hand. He gestures for his housegirl to leave, and the heavy door thuds shut behind him, leaving the two of you alone in the vast, echoing space. Beside him, on a wooden chest, sits his helmet. It is your masterpiece. You spent a full moon's working on it. The bow is polished iron, gleaming a dip, menacing grey in the firelight. It is constructed in the Spaniard helm style, made from four interlocking plates riveted to a strong iron frame, a design far superior to the simple conical helms of lesser men. Intricate brasswork, shaped like coiling serpents, covers the seams and forms a dramatic brow-piece. The nasal guard is a masterpiece of its own, a downward swooping serpent's head, its tiny garnet eyes seeming to glitter with malevolent life. It is a helmet fit for a king. There is a flaw in your work, Smith, Sigurd says without preamble, his voice a low growl. You look at the helmet. You know it is flawless. The rivets are perfect. The welds are seamless. The balance is exact. My Joe. He takes a long drink of mead, then sets the horn down with a sharp clack. He looks deeply embarrassed, and he is trying to cover it with anger. The wind, he says, his voice dropping even lower. When I am on my horse, and the wind is from the north, it whistles. You stare at him. It whistles? Yes, whistles, he hisses, the word escaping him like a burst of steam. Not a respectable roar, like the wind over a mountain crag. Not a threatening hum, like a swarm of angry bees. Hoi hoi, thin, ridiculous whistle, like a leaky teapot, like a child's toy. He glares at the helmet as if it has personally betrayed him. Last week, I was chasing down a stag, and I swear the beast heard me coming and died of laughter. You are now facing the strangest and most delicate of all customer complaints. The Jarl, the fearsome leader of your people, a man whose reputation is built on terrifying, implacable strength, has a helmet that makes a silly noise. This problem cuts to the very heart of the Viking concept of honor and public image. Jarl's power was not just political, it was theatrical. His appearance, his weapons, his armor, they were all part of a carefully constructed persona of power. A whistling helmet would undermine that persona, making him look foolish, and a foolish Jarl is a weak Jarl. The fact that the iconic horned helmet is a complete myth, a fantasy of later artists, is relevant here. Real Viking helmets were about brutal, effective functionality, and part of that function was psychological intimidation. A whistle is the opposite of intimidate. You pick up the helmet, your mind racing. You examine the brasswork, the sweep of the bowl, the shape of the nasal guard. It is an aerodynamic problem. The very features that make it look so magnificent, the intricate serpent coils. The sharp edges of the brow minus beast are catching the wind at a specific angle and creating a resonance, a vibration. It's a flaw no one could have possibly anticipated. Historians often debate the relationship between a smith and a powerful patron like a Jarl. Were you merely a hired artisan, executing the design, or were you a trusted expert, a chief technology officer whose advice on design and function was sought and respected? This moment is your test. You are not just being asked to fix a flaw, you are being asked to solve a secret, politically sensitive and a nearing problem. There's a fascinating, if obscure, area of study in historical acoustics concerning the sound of armor and weapons. A singing sword blade was a sign of good tempering. The rustle and clank of a mail shirt was part of a warrior's presence. The sound was part of the technology. You realize that Jarl isn't just complaining about a noise. He's complaining about the wrong noise. I see the problem. My Joe, you say carefully. The wind gods are jealous of the serpent's beauty. They are trying to give it a voice it was not meant to have. You frame it in a way that preserves his dignity. Can you silence it? He demands, without marring its beauty. I can. You say with a confidence you don't entirely feel. The solution must be subtle. A small change in the curve of the serpent's tail. Here, a tiny, almost invisible rivet placed here, to break the flow of the wind. A slight thickening of the brass. There, to change the harmony. No one will see the change, but the wind will sing a different song. A lower song. A growl. The Jarl looks at you, his eyes searching your face in the firelight. He sees no trickery, only the quiet competence of a master craftsman. He nods, a single, sharp jerk of his head. Do it. And Smith, he adds, his voice dropping to a deadly serious whisper. No one is to know of this. This conversation never happened. My forge is as silent as a burial mound. My Jarl, you reply. He grunts, satisfied. You pick up the magnificent, whistling helmet and walk out of the longhouse, back into the cool night air. You are carrying your greatest work, and its secret, silly shame. The Jarl's whistling helmet now sits in a place of honor in your forge, wrapped in a clean linen cloth. Its embarrassing secret known only to you and its owner. You will get to it, but first, you have another, equally delicate appointment. A warrior arrives, but this is not a brash youth like Olaf. nor a powerful Jarl with a secret. This is Ulf, a man who has seen more raids than you of winters. He is old now, his hair and beard the color of C-foam, his face a roadmap of old scars. He is no longer an active raid, but he is a man of immense respect in the village. He is a Draugr, a man who has lived his entire life by the warrior's code of honor. He doesn't carry a bent sword or a flawed helmet. He carries a magnificent, ancient manus-looking sword, its leather minus wrapped hilt worn smooth with use, its long, dark blade bearing the faint, watery patterns of master minus quality forging. It is a thing of beauty and deadly purpose. He lays it gently on your anvil, not with a clang of complaint, but with the reverence one would show a sleeping child. Smith, he says, his voice a low, gradually rumble. I have not come for repair. You look at the sword, then at him, and wait. This is my blade, Ulf continues, placing an oiled hand on the pommel. It has been my companion for 30 seasons. It has tasted the blood of Saxons and Franks. It has defended my shield minus brothers and protected my home. It has a spirit. It has a history. But, he pauses, looking at you with a deep, searching gaze. It does not have a name. This is a request you have only received a few times in your long career, and only from the most senior and respected warriors. It is a task that has nothing to do with fire or steel, and everything to do with legacy and magic. He is not asking you to make a thing. He is asking you to complete it. He wants you to preside over the NAFNGJ Elf, the name minus giving ceremony for his weapon. In your culture, naming is an act of immense power. A child is not truly part of the community until they are formally named. And for a great weapon, an object that is seen as a near minus sentient partner, a name solidifies its identity, its spirit, its legend. It is the final step in its creation, even if that step comes 30 years after it was forged. The historical debate around this practice is fascinating. Was the naming of swords a common practice, or was it a rare honor reserved only for the most legendary blades? The sagas are full of named swords, but the sagas are heroic literature, not historical textbooks. The archaeological record is, of course, silent on the matter, but the prevalence of the idea suggests that for a certain class of warrior, the sword's name was as important as its age. A blade cannot name itself, you say, acknowledging the ancient protocol. It must be given its name by a maker, in the presence of its wielder. Exactly. Oh, Frembles, I have waited. My name must be earned, not just given. This blade has earned its name now, and I am not long for this world. I want it to be known, so that when I am gone and my son carries it, he carries not just a piece of steel, but a story. You understand, he is thinking of his death, of his legacy. He wants the sword saga to be ready to continue after his own has ended. There's a strange, obscure piece of the ritual that you recall from your own master's teachings. The smith who presides over the naming must have an unblemished forge. For 3 days prior to the ceremony, no work on common tools or repairs can be done. The forge must be purified, its creative energies focused only on the highest forms of the grah. Like weapons or ceremonial objects, it's a period of ritual cleansing. The forge must be prepared. You tell Ulf, bring the blade back at the next full moon, at dusk. Ulf nods, satisfied. I will. And Smith, think on a name. It must be a good one, a strong one. He leaves the sword with you, a gesture of ultimate trust, and departs. You are left alone with the magnificent old blade. You pick it up. It feels alive in your hands, perfectly balanced. You run your eye down the blade, reading the story in its faint scratches and nicks. This is a responsibility that weighs more heavily than any hammer. The name you choose will cling to this blade for generations. It will be spoken in mead halls and whispered around campfires. It will become a piece of your people's oral history. You must choose a name that reflects the sword's past. And Ulfis, you think of his history. He was known not for his wild berserker rages, but for his steady, unyielding presence in the shield minus war. He was a defender, an anchor. You think of the blade itself, dark and patterned like the deep, Cold water of the fjord. A name begins to form in your mind. Not something flashy or overly aggressive. Something solid. Something deep. Something that speaks of strength and constancy. You place the sword carefully on a clean cloth, covering it until the moon is full. You will not forge it, but you will give it its final, immortal soul. The name you are thinking of is Fjord Guard. It feels right. It feels strong. It feels earned. The honor of naming Olfes sword fills your forge with a sense of solemn purpose. For 3 days, you do as the old ritual demands. You let your fire burn low, performing only minor tasks, keeping the creative energy of the space pure and focused. It feels like a quiet holiday, a rest from the usual clamor of complaints and demands. This fragile peace is shattered by the arrival of Helga, wife of Sven the baker. Helga is a woman who carries an aura of perpetual, low-grade dissatisfaction. She is a good woman, and her husband bakes the best bread in the village, but she seems to believe that the world is in a constant conspiracy to slightly inconvenience her. She marches into your forge with a determined look on her face, holding a large, black, 3-legged cauldron. You recognize it instantly. It's one of a set of 6 you forged last autumn. A good, sturdy pot made of folded iron sheets, riveted together and sealed with a mastersmith's care. It's a standard piece of household equipment, the heart of any Viking kitchen. Smith, she says, her voice sharp and accusatory. She doesn't place the cauldron down. She holds it out to you as if it were a piece of evidence in a trial. This pot is broken. You take the pot from her and examine it. You are expecting to see a cracked seam or a loose lead, but it is perfect. The rivets are tight. The iron is sound. There is not a single dent or flaw you can find. I see no fault with it. Helga, you say, your voice patient. It holds water. It sits steady on its legs. What is the problem? The problem, she says, leaning forward conspiratorially, is its salt. You sigh internally. You have a sinking feeling you know where this is going. When I make my fish stew, Helga explains, her voice dropping to a dramatic whisper. The pot sings, as it should. High good, happy bubbling. A low hum that tells you the food is cooking well. But this pot sings the wrong song. It's a sad song. A gloomy, mournful little gurgle. And it's souring my kitchen. You are, once again, a therapist for inanimate objects. A sad song? You echo, trying to keep the skepticism out of your voice. Yes, and that's not all. She points a stern finger at the cauldron. When this pot is on the fire, singing its sad little song, my husband's bread won't rise properly. The loaves come out fat and dense. He says the yeast is bewitched. I say it's this pot. It's filling the room with a bad spirit, and the bread minus yeast is afraid to grow. You are now in a very specific and deeply weird corner of domestic superstition. The idea that the mood or spirit of one household activity could affect another is a common thread in folklore. It speaks to a worldview where the home is a single, interconnected ecosystem of magical forces. A happy pot helps the bread rise. A cheerful loom makes the butter churn faster. It is the physics of a world governed by mood. The historical basis for this is fascinating. While no one wrote treatises on the emotions of cookware, the concept of householder, or hamingja, was very real. It was a kind of spiritual energy or good fortune that a family possessed. A well-run, happy household had strong hamingja. Anything that disrupted the harmony of the home, even a pot with a bad attitude, could damage it. Helga's complaint is not just about a noise. It's about a threat to her family's prosperity. You look at the cauldron again. You know, from a practical standpoint, that the song of a boiling pot is just the sound of water bubbles forming and collapsing. The specific pitch and rhythm would be determined by the thickness of the iron, the shape of the pot, the intensity of the fire. You could, perhaps, alter the sound by hammering the bottom slightly, changing its resonance. But you also know this is not a problem that can be solved with a hammer. It is a problem that must be solved with a story. There's an obscure piece of folklore related to smithing and food. It's said that, when forging a new cauldron, The smith should quench the final red minus hot rivet in milk or ale, not water. This was believed to give the pot a taste for good things, ensuring it would always cook hearty, joyful meals. You remember that, when you made this batch of 6 pots, you had run out of ale and had used plain fjord minus water for all of them. 5 of them were fine. Helga, it seems, got the sensitive one. You're right, you say to Helga, your voice grave and serious. I have heard of this before. This is an orphan pot. It was the last of its batch, and it misses its brothers and sisters. It sings a lonely song. Helga's eyes widen. This explanation makes perfect, dramatic sense to her. An orphan pot. I knew it. The cure is simple. You continue, improvising, but it must be done with care. Tonight, you must leave the pot outside your door, upside down. Underneath it, you must place a small dish of cream and a single perfect wild strawberry. It is an offering to the household spirits. You are asking them to adopt the pot, to make it part of your family. You hand the cauldron back to her. In the morning, bring the pot back inside. From now on, before you use it, you must tap it 3 times with a wooden spoon and whisper, "You are home now." Its song will change. The yeast will no longer be afraid. Helga looks at you with awe, her face a mask of profound gratitude. You have not just identified the problem. You have given her a ritual, a tangible set of actions to fix it. You have given her back her power. She thanks you profusely and marches out of the forge, her cauldron held high, a woman on a mission to perform a domestic exorcism. You shake your head, a smile tugging at the corner of your mouth. You have solved the problem of the Seiðr. Bread minus heating pot not with iron, but with psychology. Sometimes, you reflect. The most important tool in your forge is a good imagination. For a few blessed days, your forge is just a fort again. The Jarl's helmet is quietly awaiting its D-minus whistling, and Alf's sword is waiting for the full moon. You spend your time on honest, straightforward work, sharpening plowshares, forging new hinges, and listening to the satisfying uncomplicated song of your hammer on normal, earth minus born iron. But the earth, it seems, has a rival, the sky. You need more charcoal. The pyre you prepared last season is dwindling, and the demands of the village are constant. So one morning, you leave Lars in charge of the forge and head into the deep woods, to the quiet, secluded clearings where you burn your charcoal mounds. It's a long one, and you take a path less traveled, a winding animal trail that leads through a part of the forest. Most people avoid a place of ancient, moss minus heavy trees and an unnerving silence. As you are checking one of your old, grass minus covered mounds, something catches your eye. It is a stone, or what looks like a stone, half minus buried in the earth at the base of a huge, lightning minus scarred oak. But it's the ground around it that is strange. The earth is disturbed, gouged out in a long, angry scar, and a nearby birch tree is snapped in two. Its white wood splintered and dry. It looks as if something has fallen from a great height, with immense force. You walk over to the stone. It is a dark, misshapen lump, about the size of a loaf of bread, its surface bitted and covered in a strange, melted minus-looking crust. You nudge it with your boot. It doesn't move. Curious, you crouch down and try to lift it. Its weight is a lie. It is impossibly, unnaturally heavy, far denser than any rock of that size has a right to be. It takes all your strength to pry it from the earth. As you lift it, you see that it is not stone. Where it has chipped, you can see the dull, metallic gleam of iron. You have found an iron deposit before, but this is different. This was not born at the butt. It feels alien. A shiver of excitement and a little fear runs down your spine. You heave the strange object into the leather sack you use for carrying bog miners, and begin the long, heavy journey back to your forge. Back in your own domain, you place the strange lump on your anvil. You take a small hammer and strike it. Instead of the dull thud of rock, it rings with a clear, high note you have never heard before. A sound like distant, cold bells. Lars stares at it, his eyes wide. You decide to test it properly. You use your strongest tongs to place a corner of the lump into the hottest part of your furnace. It resists the heat in a way normal iron doesn't. It seems to soak up the energy, sullen and stubborn. Finally, it begins to glow, but with a strange, silvery minus white light. Not the familiar orange minus yellow of your bloomery iron. You pull it out and place it on the anvil. You raise your heavy hammer and strike. The blow, which would flatten normal iron, barely makes a dent. The sparks that fly from it are not the usual red and orange. They are brilliant, searing white into startling electric blue. They seem to burn longer, to dance in the air. And the sound is a song of the void, a pure, resonant tone that seems to vibrate in your bones. This is sky minus iron, a star, fallen to earth. This is, of course, meteoritic iron, a natural iron minus nickel alloy prized by ancient cultures. It was a source of iron long before the smelting process was perfected, and its celestial origin made it an object of immense religious and magical significance. The historical debate is about how clearly our ancestors understood this. Did they know it was from space, or did they just recognize it as a superior, magical metal found in a sacred, unusual way? The news spreads through the village like wildfire, fanned by the excited whispers of your apprentice. By dusk, your forge has become the center of the world. A crowd gathers, keeping a respectful distance from the glowing, alien metal that now sits cooling on your anvil. And with the crowd come the complaints, or rather, the demands. First comes the Jarl's house girl. The Jarl has heard the news. He claims the star minus metal by right. It is a gift from Odin, a sign of his favor. You are to forge it, all of it, into a new sword for him. A blade that cannot be broken or bent. A sword fit for a king. Then comes a delegation of farmers, led by Bjorn. They are terrified. This thing is not a gift. It is an omen, a disruption of the natural order. It has scarred the earth and broken the trees. It will blight the crops and sour the milk. You are to take it back to the woods. They plead, to bury it deep and speak the words of appeasement. You must get rid of it. Finally, as night falls, Runa the side Kona appears at the edge of the crowd. She does not speak to you directly. She looks at the sky minus iron, and a strange, distant look comes into her eyes. She begins to chant, her voice slow and hypnotic. She speaks of the iron as a needle, dropped from the loom of the Norse, the weavers of fate. It is not for a sword, nor to be buried. It is a key, she says, a key to unlock a future she cannot yet see. You, the smith, must hold it, must listen to its cold song, until its true purpose is revealed. You stand alone in your forge, the hub of a wheel of competing fears and desires. The Jarl wants a weapon, the farmers want peace, the shaman wants a prophecy, and you hold a piece of a fallen star in your hands. You are the only one with the skill to shape it. But what shape should it take? The sky has sent you a gift, and it feels suspiciously like a curse. The fallen star sits on your anvil, a lump of cosmic controversy. The Jarl wants it, the farmers fear it, the side Kona covets its mystery. For a week, you do nothing with it, a strategy of calculated inaction. You know that to act on any one demand is to infuriate the other factions. The sky minus iron has become a test of your diplomacy as much as your smithing skill. Your solution, for now, is to immerse yourself in the most demanding, all minus consuming project the village has to offer the new longship. Down by the shore, where the fjord laps at a stony beach, a new skeleton is taking shape. It is the framework of a SKEI, a large, ocean minus going warship, and its construction is the single most important community project of the year. The most about minus builder is a man named Harold, a craftsman whose skill is as respected as your own. He is a man who thinks in curves and seamless joints, his hands as comfortable with an adze as yours are with a hammer. He is also a man on the edge of a nervous breakdown. You find him staring at the great oak keel of the ship, the massive, curving spine of timber that is the foundation of the entire vessel. His face, usually so calm and competent, is a mask of pure frustration. "Smith," he says, without looking at you. Your rivets are cursed. You look at the neat rows of iron rivets that you and Lars had spent the last month forging. They are perfect, uniform in size, consistently shaped. You have made thousands of them. What is wrong with the rivets, Harald? They will not hold, he says, running a hand through his thinning hair. It is not the iron. It is not the wood. It is the luck. The luck is bad. He points to a nearly invisible line on the great keel. Lay here, Linecred. This is the third time. We lay the keel. We begin to fasten the strakes, and a flaw appears in the wood. Not a flaw we could see before, but one that opens up as soon as your iron touches it. The wood is rejecting the iron. Your rivets have a bad spirit. You are, once again, in the world of sympathetic magic, but this time it is a more complex, industrial minus scale superstition. The construction of a long ship was an incredibly sophisticated process, a perfect marriage of materials, science and artistry. The long, flexible planks, or strakes, were clinker minus built, overlapping each other and fastened with iron rivets. This gave the hull a unique combination of strength and flexibility, allowing it to ride the ocean waves. But it was also a deeply spiritual process. Every stage was accompanied by rituals and beliefs. The luck of the materials was paramount. The keel had to be laid at the right time of year. The wood had to be sourced from the right trees. And the iron, it seems, had to be in the right mood. Historians debate how much of this was superstition and how much was a kind of intuitive quality control. Perhaps Harald's sense of bad luck was actually his master craftsman's subconscious mind picking up on a subtle, invisible flaw in the materials or the process. He couldn't explain it logically, so he framed it in the language of spirits and luck. I have made these rivets in the same way I have always made them. You say, defending your word. The iron is good. The forging is clean. The forging may be clean, Harald retorts, but the timing is not. You have that thing from the sky in your forge. It has soured your fire. Its salient spirit is getting into your iron. This ship is a child of the earth and the sea. It does not want a piece of the sky in its bones. His complaint is that your forge, your entire operation, has been contaminated by the meteorite. The star-minus iron's powerful, otherworldly mana is leaking out, infecting your other work with its strangeness. It's a complaint of spiritual cross-minus contamination. This highlights an obscure but important belief about smithing, the concept of a clean or dedicated fire. For certain important jobs, a smith was expected to start a fresh fire with new charcoal, to ensure no lingering spirits or influences from a previous mundane job like making fish minus hooks would taint the new, important one like forging a sword. Harald is essentially accusing you of breaking this fundamental rule on a grand scale. What would you have me do? You ask, the weariness evident in your voice. The Joe wants a sword from the star-minus iron. I cannot simply throw it away. Harald looks at you, his eyes pleading. Then make the rivets in a different fire, or speak the words. Do something. We are a season behind schedule. The ice will be here before the ship is ready. We need good luck, Smith, and we need it now. He is desperate. The pressure on a master boat minus builder was immense. The safety of dozens of men, the prosperity of the entire village, rested on the integrity of his work. A ship that failed was not just a financial loss. It was a profound communal shame. You look at the great, curving skeleton of the ship. You look at the buckets of perfectly good, supposedly cursed rivets. You think of the lump of star-minus iron sitting on your anvil, a silent, cosmic troublemaker. All right, Harald, you sigh. I will make you new rivets. A new batch, from a new fire, made with charcoal from the sacred rowan tree. And, you add, lowering your voice, I will quench each one not in water, but in the sea itself. We will give them the spirit of the waves before they ever touch the wood. Harald's face floods with relief. You have offered him a ritual solution, a tangible piece of magic that he can believe in. You have offered him a story of renewed luck. You walk back to your forge, shaking your head. First, you are a psychologist for pots. Now, you are a priest for rivets. It seems that in your line of work, The customer is always right, especially when their complaints make absolutely no sense at all. The saga of the cursed rivets is resolved. You perform the promised ritual, quenching the new batch in the salty brine of the fjord at high tide. Harold the boat minus builder is satisfied. The hairline crack in the keel is repaired, and the construction of the long ship proceeds with a renewed sense of good luck. Your payment is a generous side of cured pork and, more importantly, a restored sense of peace with the village's most important craftsman. You are hoping for a period of calm, a chance to finally address the jar Elas, whistling Helmeton Dolfes waiting sore. But your forge is a magnet for the village's anxieties, and a new customer soon arrives, his problem even more delicate and intangible than a whistling helmet or a sad pot. His name is Magnus, a quiet, prosperous farmer whose lands lie in the sunniest part of the valley. He comes to you not with a complaint, but with a commission of the utmost sensitivity. He brings with him a small, heavy pouch. He empties it and pours its contents onto your workbench. A cascade of gleaming, 4 and silver coins tumbles out. It is a small fortune, the result of a good trading season. Smith, he says, his voice low and earnest. My daughter, Ingrid, is to be married. Good news, you reply. My congratulations to your family. It is, he says, but his face is clouded with worry. She is marrying the son of a chieftain from the Northern Isles. It is a good match, a strong alliance, but they are a proud, old family. Everything must be perfect. He pushes the pile of silver coins towards you. I want you to make her a wedding gift, a bridal arm minus ring, the finest you can forge. This is a common and honorable request. A silver arm minus ring was more than just jewelry. It was a store of wealth, a status symbol, and to keep out of a bride's dowry. But you sense there is more to his request than just a piece of fine metalwork. But it must be a special ring. Magnus continues, his voice dropping to a whisper. Ingrid is. She is a good girl, pure, like new minus fallen snow. He looks at you, his eyes pleading. I want the ring to reflect that. I want you to forge a ring from this silver that will never tarnish. A ring that will stay as bright and pure as the day it is made. A symbol of her virtue for her new family to see. You stare at the silver coins, and you feel a familiar, sinking feeling. You are once again being asked to perform a miracle. Silver, tarnishes. It is the nature of the metal. It reacts to the air, to the sweat on a person's skin, to the smoke from a hearth. It darkens, it dulls. This is a simple, unavoidable chemical fact. To forge a ring that would defy this process is to ask you to change the very laws of nature. This request is a perfect storm of social anxiety, paternal pride, and folk belief. Magnus is not just asking for a piece of jewelry. He is asking for a magical certificate of his daughter's purity, a permanent, wearable testament to her honor that will impress his powerful new and minus laws in a society where a family's reputation was everything. And a bride's virtue was a key component of that reputation. This was a matter of immense importance. The historical context here is crucial. While Viking society was in some ways more liberal about women's rights than other European cultures of the time, the pressure on a bride, especially in a high-stakes political marriage, would have been immense. The idea of a magical object that could publicly and permanently attest to her worthiness is a poignant reflection of these social pressures. You think of the technical challenges. Could you alloy the silver with another metal to slow the tarnish? Perhaps that you have no reliable way to do this with the purity required. Any addition would likely dull the color or make the metal brittle. Then, a piece of obscure, almost alchemical smithing lore surfaces in your mind. It's a technique whispered about for creating moon minus silver, a metal that was said to hold the pure, unchanging light of the full moon. The secret was not in the forging, but in the polish. The legend claimed that the final polish should not be done with rough wool or leather, but with a very specific material defined, powdery ash of burned birch bark, collected on a moonless night and mixed with the tears of a morning frost. It was said that this mixture would not just polish the surface, but would seal it with a microscopic, invisible layer of magic, protecting it from the darkening influence of the world. It is, of course, a fantasy, a poet's recipe, but you look at Magnus's worried face, you see the deep, desperate love he has for his daughter, and you know that this is not a problem for a mythologist. It is a problem for a storyteller. It can be done, you say, your voice resonating with a confidence you invent on the spot. But the process is difficult. The silver must be forged only under the light of a full moon to capture its purity, and the final cooling cannot be in water, but in the morning dew collected from the petals of the heather flower. You are weaving a tale, a set of ritual requirements that will give the final object the story it needs. The magic is not in the metal, it is in the process you are describing. Magnus's face floods with relief and gratitude. Whatever it takes, smith, whatever it takes. You gather the silver coins. You will forge a beautiful minus ring, your finest work. You will twist the silver into an elegant, coiling serpent, its eyes set with tiny chips of blue glass. And you will polish it. You will polish it for hours, until it shines with a brilliance that seems to be a light of its own. And when you present it to Magnus, you will tell him the story of the moonlight and the heather minus dew. You will give him the magic he needs. You know the ring will eventually tarnish, as all silver must, but by then, his daughter will be a wife, a mother, her place in her new family secure. The ring's magic will have already done its work. The forge is your sanctuary, a place of heat, noise, and purpose. It is your domain, and you are its undisputed master. But even a master needs help. The bellows are heavy. The charcoal needs constant tending. The errands are endless. Your old apprentice, Norse, has grown into a competent, if uninspired, young smith and has set up his own small forge at the other end of the village. It is time for you to take on a new boy. The Jarl sends him to you. His name is Eric, and he is the youngest son of a farmer who was killed in a skirmish last year. A boy with no inheritance and no prospect. The Jarl, in an act of communal responsibility, is finding places for the boy and his brothers. You are to teach Eric the smith's trade. It is your duty. Eric is a good boy. He is strong, eager to please, and surprisingly quick to learn the 100 small, though -forge related tasks that make up an apprenticeship. He can sort scrap, stack charcoal, and haggle with a trader for a good price on whetstones. He has a good head for the work. There is only one problem, a rather significant problem for an apprenticed blacksmith. He is terrified of the fire. It is not a rational fear. It is a deep, primal, gut -level phobia. Whenever you open the furnace to draw out a glowing piece of iron, he flinches and takes a step back, his face pale beneath its layer of grime. When a stray spark flies out and dies on the earthen floor, he jumps as if a serpent has struck at him. He cannot bring himself to stand close to the hearth, to feel its searing breath on his face. You try to be patient. You start him on the bellows, a safe distance from the flames, but his rhythm is always off, his pumping weak and hesitant, his eyes constantly darting towards the glowing heart of the furnace as if it were a caged beast about to spring. The fire is a tool, boy, you tell him, your voice firm but not unkind. It is not your enemy, it is your servant. You must master it. I know, master, he whispers, his eyes wide with a mixture of shame and terror. I try, but it breathes. His simple, childlike observation sends a small shiver down your own spine. He is not wrong. The fire does breathe. It is a living, hungry thing. You have always known this, have always respected it, but you have never feared it. To Eric, the life in the fire is not a source of power. It is a source of pure dread. This situation puts you in a difficult position. An apprentice who is afraid of the fire is as useless as a fisherman who is afraid of the water. You cannot teach him the true secrets of the craft, how to read the colors of the metal, how to manage the heat for a perfect weld if he cannot bear to be near the furnace. The historical relationship between a master smith and his apprentice was intense and all-encompassing. The apprentice would live with the master, performing household chores as well as forge work. It was a form of adoption, a deep bond of teaching and servitude. But what did a master do with a failed apprentice? The question is rarely addressed in the sagas or historical records. Was the boy simply sent away in shame, or was there an obligation to find him a different, more suitable trade? You feel the weight of this responsibility. The boy's future is in your hands. You try different approaches. You tell him the stories of Wayland the smith, the great mythological craftsman of the gods, trying to frame the fire as a sacred, creative force. You listened politely, but the fear in his eyes remains. You have him work with cold metal, practicing hammer control on lead bars, hoping to build his confidence. He excels at this, his blows becoming steady and precise. But as soon as the iron glows, he falters. One afternoon, you are attempting to make a pattern-welded blade, the pinnacle of your craft. It involves forge miners welding multiple rods of different types of iron together, twisting them, and then folding them back on themselves to create a complex, beautiful, and incredibly strong blade. The process requires precise heat control and quick, confident work. You need Eric on the bellows, maintaining a perfect, consistent temperature. You pull the white minus hot billet of twisted rods from the fire, ready for the crucial first weld. Now, boy, you shout, more air, a steady blast. But Eric is frozen. He stares at the incandescent metal, at the shower of brilliant white sparks that erupt as you place it on the anvil. He is mesmerized by the very thing that terrifies him. The bellows fall silent. The temperature in the furnace begins to drop. The perfect moment for the weld is slipping away. In a flash of anger and frustration, you roar at him. Eric, the bellows. The shout breaks his trance. He lets out a small yelp of fear, stumbles backward, and trips over a pile of scrap iron, landing in a heap on the floor. The billet on your anvil cools from a searing white to a dull orange. The weld has failed. The intricate pattern is ruined. Days of work wasted. You stand there, the failed billet in your tongs. The silence of the forge broken only by Eric's quiet, shamed sobs. You look at the boy, curled up on the floor, and your anger evaporates, replaced by a deep, weary sadness. This cannot go on. You cannot forge metal and mend a broken boy at the same time. You must make a choice. The failed pattern minus welded billet lies on your workbench, a cold, hard reminder of your apprentice problem. You look at Eric, who is miserably sorting through a pile of rusted chain, his shoulders slumped in a permanent posture of apology. You know a decision must be made, but you keep putting it off. The boy is a good boy. He just chose the wrong trade, or rather, the trade chose him, and it was a bad match. Your melancholy is interrupted by the arrival of a very different kind of visitor. He is not a villager with a spiritual complaint or a warrior with a grievance. He is a foreigner, a trader, his ship currently anchored in the deep waters of your fjord. You can tell by his clothes the fine, brightly dyed wool, the neatly trimmed beard that he is a man of wealth and sophistication. He is flanked by two large, armed guards who look deeply unimpressed by your small, smoky village. He introduces himself, his Norse clipped and accented, as the Osimos, a merchant from the great city of Mythological, Constantinople, the center of the world. He has come to trade. He is not interested in your common wares, the axes, the nails, the bots. He has heard that you are a master smith, and he wishes to see your finest work. He is looking for weapons, high-minus quality swords, spearheads, daggers. With a sense of professional pride, you show him your best pieces. You lay out a set of broad-minus bladed spearheads, their sockets perfectly formed. You show him a CX, a long, single-minus edged fighting knife, its edge honed to a razor sharpness. Finally, you show him a sword. It is not an aimed blade like ours, but it is a fine piece of work, the result of many long hours of folding and hammering. Its balance perfect, its steel a clean, honest grey. Theo Simos picks up the sword. He examines it with a connoisseur's eye. He sights down the blade. He tests its flex. He seems moderately impressed. Then, he smiles. It is a thin, superior smile. This is good work for this land, he says, his tone dripping with a faint, polite condescension. Strong, simple, but it is a peasant's blade compared to what we have in the great city. He turns to one of his guards. The guard draws his own sword. The moment the blade leaves its scabbard, you feel a jolt, a physical shock of recognition. This is not iron. This is something else. The blade is dark, almost black, and its surface is covered in a mesmerizing, watery pattern, like the ripples on a pond, but frozen in steel. It seems to drink the grey light of your form. It is Damascus steel, a legendary material you have only ever heard of in the tales of far miners traveled merchants. It is a form of crucible steel, made through a secret process that yields a metal of mythical hardness and sharpness. Seiðr takes the blade from his guard. Feel this edge, he says, offering it to you hilt minus first. You take it. The weight is incredible, light but with a sense of immense, contained power. You run your thumb very carefully along the edge. It is not just sharp. It feels alive. It feels like it could cut the air itself. You have never held anything like it. This moment is a stark illustration of the technological gap between your world and the great empires to the south. While you and your fellow Norse smiths are masters of Pattern-Welding, a sophisticated technique for making the most of inconsistent bloomery iron, the smiths of the East, with their access to superior materials from India and their advanced Crucible steel technology, are simply playing a different game. The historical debate here is not about if Damascus steel was better, it was, but about how much contact and exchange of ideas there was. Did any of this advanced knowledge filter back to smiths like you? Or were these blades simply rare, exotic treasures, their secrets completely out of reach? Your swords, Seiðr says, retrieving his blade with a smug flourish. They bend, they break, they are made of bog minus mud and sweat. This, he taps the pattern blade, is made of fire and starlight. It will cut your best iron in two and not even feel a scratch. His words are a direct, professional insult. He is dismissing your entire life's work, a craft you have honed for decades. As primitive and clumsy, you feel a hot flush of anger, but you also feel a grudging, professional respect. The blade is magnificent. You look at the sword in his hand, then you look over at Eric, still miserably fumbling with the rusty chains, and an idea begins to form in your mind. An idea that is both a solution to your apprentice problem and a quiet, dignified answer to this merchant's arrogance. You turn back to Seiðr. You do not argue with him. You do not defend your craft. Instead, you change the subject. You are a man of the world. You say, your voice calm and even. You travel. You need servants. Men who can speak different tongues, who can manage your accounts, who are not afraid of a long sea voyage. Seiðr looks at you, intrigued by the sudden shift. I am always in need of clever hands. I have a boy, you say, gesturing towards Eric, my apprentice. He is strong. He is loyal. He has a good head for numbers. But his spirit is not for the forge. His soul belongs to the sea, not the fire. You are creating a new narrative for the boy on the spot. He wishes to see the world. He wishes to see your great city of mythological. Eric looks up, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and dawning hope. Seiðr looks at the boy, then back at you. He understands. This is a negotiation. And what would I give you for this? Clever boy, Seiðr says, a glint in his eye. You look at the magnificent, patterned sword in his hand. You know he would never part with it. But his guard has a dagger made of the same beautiful, deadly steel. His guard's dagger, you say simply, as a gift, a sample of your superior craft, for a humble northern smith to study. Seiðr laughs, a short, sharp bark of amusement. He has been outmaneuvered. He came to buy weapons and display his superiority. He is now engaged in a trade for a human being. He finds the entire situation deeply entertaining. He speaks a few sharp words to his guard in his own tongue. The guard, looking displeased, unbuckles the dagger from his belt and hands it to his master. They deal, Seiðr says, holding the dagger out to you. The boy sails with me on the morning tide. You have just traded your failed apprentice for one of the finest pieces of steel you have ever touched. You have solved your problem, given Arik a new future, and acquired a priceless object for study away to perhaps unlock the secrets of your rival's craft. It is the best deal you have made in your entire life. The Damascus dagger lies on your workbench, a dark, silent teacher. In the quiet hours after Arik has departed with the merchant sea, Osimos, his face a mask of terror, hope, and profound relief, you study it. You spend hours just looking at the intricate, watery patterns on its surface, a map of a metallurgical secret you do not possess. You feel its impossible edge, its perfect balance. It is a thing from another world, and it fills you with a burning, creative fire, a frustration, a deep, professional envy. Cosimo's condescending smile is seared into your memory. A peasant's blade. The insult has settled deep in your gut, a hot coal of indignation. You cannot make Damascus steel. The materials, the techniques, are a world away, but you can show the world, what can be done with the materials you do have. You can show them the pinnacle of your own craft. You decide it is time. You will finally forge the blade that has been living in your mind for years. Your masterpiece. A perfect pattern-welded sword. This will not be a sword for a customer. Not for the jarl. Not for a wealthy warrior. This will be a sword for yourself. A sword for the sake of the sword. An answer to the insult. Forged in iron and fire. The work begins. This is not a task to be rushed. It is a slow, deliberate, almost religious undertaking. You start by selecting your materials with the care of a priest selecting a sacrificial animal. You choose the types of bloomery iron. One is your standard, tough, ductile iron, low in carbon, which will form the sword's strong, flexible core. The other is a special bloom you made months ago, one that you carburized by heating it in a sealed clay pot with charcoal and ground bone for many days. This blister steel is brittle, but it is hot, incredibly so, and will form the cutting edge. You hammer these two different metals into long, thin rods, then the true artistry begins. You take 7 of these rods for of the hard steel, 3 of the soft iron and stack them together, alternating them. You bind them with wire. This is the billet, the heart of the future sword. You heat the billet in your forge. You are never leaving it, waiting for the precise, incandescent, welding temperature. You chant the old song, the verses for binding and joining. When the moment is right, you pull it from the fire, a shower of brilliant sparks erupting in the gloom, and you lay it on the anvil, and you hammer. The blows are not just to shape the metal, but to fuse the 7 rods into a single, solid bar. This is forge minus welding, the foundational magic of your craft. Once the bar is welded, the real complexity starts. You heat it again, and with a pair of heavy tongs, you begin to twist it. You twist it in opposite directions, creating a beautiful, intricate chevron or herringbone pattern within the metal itself. This is not just for beauty. The twisting and folding homogenize the iron and steel, driving out the last of the slag and creating a structure of incredible strength and resilience. The historical pattern-welded swords of the Viking Age are marvels of both art and engineering. The patterns could be astonishingly complex, with names like serpent in minus, the minus blade or rose minus path. The creation of these blades was the absolute pinnacle of the European smith's craft, a skill that was later lost for centuries. The debate among archaeologists and metal adjusters today is how much of the patterning was for aesthetic beauty and how much was a functional byproduct of creating the strongest possible blade from the available, inconsistent materials. Looking at your own work, you know the answer is both. The beauty is the function. The pattern is the visible soul of the sword's strength. You fold the twisted bar back on itself and weld it again. You draw it out, hammering it into the long, tapering shape of a blade. Finally, you forge the hard, high-carbon steel for the cutting edge and expertly weld it onto the patterned core. For days, your forge is a world unto itself. You lose track of time. You eat when you remember. You sleep when you collapse. Your entire being is focused on this single piece of metal. Finally, the forging is done. You spend another 2 days grinding and polishing the blade, revealing the stunning, intricate pattern you have locked within the steel. You fit it with a simple, elegant hilt of dark borgmine soaking the heavy iron pommel. And then, it is finished. It lies on your anvil, gleaming in the firelight. It is, without a doubt, the finest thing you have ever made. Its pattern is a mesmerizing dance of light and shadow. Its edge is terrifyingly sharp. Its balance is so perfect it feels like it is not a tool, but a part of your own arm. You have done it. You have created your masterpiece. And with that triumph comes a new, unexpected, and terrible feeling, a profound, aching sense of attachment. You look at the sword, this object born of your sweat, your skill, your frustration, your pride, and you know, with absolute certainty, that you can never let it go. You cannot sell it. To give it to the jar, or any other man, would feel like a betrayal. It is too perfect. It is too much a part of you. The sword you forged to answer a merchant's insult has become your own personal treasure, and your curse. You have made a perfect weapon that will never be wielded, a magnificent blade destined to live its life on your wall, a silent testament to the moment your pride and your skill became one. The perfect, unsellable sword now hangs on the wall of your forge, a constant, gleaming reminder of your own obsessive genius. It has become a conversation piece. Warriors admire it. The Jarl has made a handsome offer for it which you politely refuse, and it has, in a strange way, elevated your status even further. You are not just the village smith. You are an artist whose masterpiece is not for sale. This new level of respect brings you a different kind of clientele. You are no longer just dealing with the practical and magical problems of warriors and farmers. You are now being approached for tasks that require not just skill, but a reputation for unimpeachable integrity. One day, a man arrives at your forge. He is not a warrior or a farmer. He is the law speaker for your region. His name is Draugr, and he is one of the most important men in the local legal and political structure. A law speaker, or logSOGmer, was a man of immense learning and memory. His job was to recite 1-3 of the law code from memory at the annual regional assembly. The thing, he was a living book of law, the final arbiter of legal disputes. He comes to you with a commission that is small in size, but immense in its symbolic weight. Smith, he says, his voice calm and measured, the voice of a man used to speaking with authority. The summer thing is approaching, and our old tools of justice are no longer true. He reaches into a leather bag and places 2 objects on your workbench. The first is a set of old, bronze-balanced scales, the kind used for weighing silver. They are green with verdigris, and one of the pans hangs slightly lower than the other. The second object is a collection of misshapen lumps of lead and bronze, the weights used with the scales. These are served for 3 generations, Draugr says, but they have seen too much use. The beam is worn, the weights have been chipped and dented. They can no longer be trusted to render a true judgment. I need you to forge a new set of scales and new, true weights, for the weighing of fines and ware guild. This is a job of the utmost importance. The Viking legal system, while complex, did not rely on prisons. Most disputes, from theft to murder, were resolved not through incarceration, but through a system of carefully calculated fines paid in silver. This were guild or man minus price was the compensation paid to a victim or their family. A true and trusted set of scales was therefore not just a piece of equipment. It was the physical embodiment of the law itself. Justice, in your world, had to be literally weighed. The historical reality of Viking law and the thing is fascinating. These assemblies were sophisticated legal and social gatherings. Free men would meet to settle disputes, create new laws, and forge political alliances. The law speaker was a central figure, and the concept of a commonly agreed minus upon standard of weights and measures was fundamental to making the whole system work. An untrustworthy scale could lead to a renewed blood feud. You look at the old, tired scales. Forging a new set is a task of incredible precision. The balance beam must be perfectly straight, the pivot point frictionless, the pans of equal weight down to the last grain of sand. And the weights are a challenge of their own. You must create a set of standard weights in EYRIR, a mark that are absolutely, verifiably correct. Your work will become the new legal standard for the entire region. The work requires a clear mind and a steady hand. You say, acknowledging the gravity of the request. It cannot be rushed. I know, Vario says, but there is more. He leans closer. The law is not just about silver, Smith. It is about belief. People must believe in the justice of the thing. The new scales, they must not only be true, but they must look true. They must have the appearance of inculpate judgment. He is asking you not just to be a smith, but to be a designer of legal theater. He needs an object that performs its integrity. A little minus known and rather specific aspect of the archaeology of Viking weights and measures is the discovery of decorated and sometimes zoomorphic weights. This suggests that these objects were not purely functional. They had a symbolic, almost talismanic quality. A weight shaped like a ball might represent strength and fertility. One shaped like a bird might represent swiftness or freedom. An idea forms in your mind, an idea that will blend perfect function with powerful symbolism. The beam, you say, thinking aloud, I will forge from the cleanest iron, and I will inlay it with a single, straight line of polished silver, the path of truth. The pant will be simple, unadorned brass, so no man can say a carving adds or subtracts weight. Thoraya nods, his eyes intent, and the weights. You continue, your idea taking shape. They will not be simple lumps of lead. I will cast them in bronze, and each one will be shaped. The smallest weight will be a fish, for it sees the hidden depths. The next, a wolf, for it hunts down the truth. And the largest, you conclude, will be the shape of a hand, an open hand, a hand that shows it holds no tricks, a hand that gives and receives a fair price. Thorayar is silent for a long moment. He looks at you, and you see a flicker of deep, profound respect in his eyes. You have understood not just the technical problem, but the spiritual one. You have understood the poetry of the law. Do it, he says simply. Let the new law be weighed in a fish's depth, a wolf's hunger, and an honest man's hand. He leaves the old scales with you and departs. You are left with the commission. You are to forge justice itself. Title not for building a ship or winning a war, but for building the very thing that holds your society together, the fragile, heavy, and absolutely essential idea of a fair and measurable peace. The scales of justice lie on your workbench. Their silver minus, inlaid beam gleaming, their bronze pans perfectly balanced, the symbolic weights the fish, the wolf, the open hand are finished. Their heft and artistry a source of deep professional pride. Though I, the law minus speaker, has seen them and declared them to be the truest work in the 9 worlds. Your reputation for integrity is now, quite literally, cast in bronze. You are enjoying this rare moment of unadulterated success when an old man shuffles into your fort. He is ancient, his back bent like a question mark, his beard a thin, white wisp. He leans heavily on a walking stick. In his other hand, he carries a bundle wrapped in old, stained deerskin. It is Kettle 1-I, the oldest man in the village, a living repository of stories and sagas that were old when he was a boy. He is said to be the great grandson of one of the first men to settle this fjord. He approaches your Anvaland. With trembling hands, he unwraps his bundle. Inside is an axe head. It is a magnificent, fearsome looking thing. A broad bladed Danish axe, a bearded axe, designed for hooking shields and cleaving helms. But it is in a sorry state. The haft is long gone, shattered. The edge is chipped and dull. A deep crack runs from the eye, where the handle would be. Halfway up the blade, it is a dead warrior, a hero long since retired. Smith, Kettle rasps, his voice thin and reedy. I have brought you a patient. You pick up the axe head. It is heavy, beautifully balanced, even in its ruined state. The steel is darkened of a quality you rarely see. This is a fine old blade, you say. your respect for the craftsmanship evident in your tone. It is more than a blade, Ketil says, his one good eye gleaming with a fierce light. It is a story. This. He taps the cracked metal with a bony finger. This Konung SGJ of King's Minas gift. It was the axe of Harald Fairhair himself, the great king who first united the tribes of this land. He gave it to my great Minas grandfather after the Battle of Hurstwic as a reward for his bravery. You look at the old man, then at the axe. The story is unlikely. Harald Fairhair was a king of almost mythical status, his reign centuries in the past. To claim this axe was like claiming to own a splinter from one of Odin's spears. But you also know that in your culture, the story of an object, its provenance, is a powerful part of its reality. For Ketil, this axe is King's Minas gift. This is a classic example of what historians call an object biography. An object, especially a weapon or a piece of jewelry, accrues a history, a personality, a life story of its own, which is passed down through generations. The object becomes a physical link to a heroic, legendary past. The academic question is not, was this really Harald Fairhair's axe? But rather, what does the belief that it was his axe tell us about the people who owned it? The crack is deep, you say, tracing the dark line with your finger. To fix it, I would have to reforge it, heat it to a welding heat, hammer it back into a single piece. The process would change it. It would lose some of its old self. I know, Ketil says, that is the way of things. We all are reforged by time. But that is my request. I want you to mend. But he leans closer, his voice dropping to an intense whisper. You must preserve its memory. Its memory, you repeat. I'm sure you understand. Yes, its spirit, its story, the memory of the king's hand, the memory of the great battle. I do not want a new axe. I want this axe, made whole again. I want you to reforge the steel, but not the soul. You are being asked to perform a kind of spiritual surgery. A task so metaphysically delicate it makes the Draugr or Minas lock seem like simple plumbing. How does one reforge the body of a thing while preserving its soul? An incredibly niche and almost mystical piece of smithing lore comes to you. It's a technique for repairing a legendary weapon without breaking the chain of its history. The process involved not just reforging the broken part, but incorporating a piece of the old into the new. But the key was in the flux. Flux is the substance, usually sand or borax, that a smith uses during forge minus welding. It melts and flows over the metal, preventing oxidation and allowing the iron surfaces to fuse cleanly. The legend said that for repair like this, the flux should not be plain sand. You should take the whetstone that was last used to sharpen the blade, grind a small amount of it into a fine powder, and mix that powder with the flux. The idea was that the whetstone held the memory of the blade's edge, its history of sharpness. By forging this memory back into the well, you were reminding the steel of what it used to be. You were reforging its identity along with its body. It will be difficult, you tell Ketil, your voice resonating with the gravity of the task. The fire must be old, the hammer minus blows must follow the old rhythm, and the healing of the crack must be sealed with the memory of its own sharpness. Ketil's one eye shines with understanding. He trusts you. You are speaking his language, the language of legend and sympathetic magic. I knew you would understand. Smith, you are a keeper of the old ways. It leaves the ancient, cracked axe head in your care. You place it on your anvil, a patient on your operating table. You will need to find the axe's original sharpening stone, if it even still exists. You will have to grind it down, a sacrilegious act in its own right. You will have to perform the most delicate weld of your entire career. You are not just mending a tool. You are mending a legend. You are hammering a story back into a single, seamless piece. The King's Minas gift lies on your workbench, its deep crack successfully healed with a weld that is nearly invisible. Its memory preserved with the dust of its old whetstone. The axe feels whole again, its legendary spirit slumbering but intact. You feel a deep sense of accomplishment, of having successfully navigated the treacherous waters of metallurgy and mythology. Your next customer, however, brings a problem from a completely different world, a world that does not understand the language of hungry axes or memory minus filled steel. He is a new arrival in the village, a man named Brother Thomas, a Christian missionary from the south. He is a small, fervent man with a neatly tanned, swarthy head and eyes that burn with a strange, unwavering fire. He has been given permission by the Draugr in a political move to appease a powerful southern king to build a small chapel on a patch of land at the edge of the village. He comes to you with a commission. It is a testament to your reputation that even this man, who considers your gods to be demons and your beliefs to be ignorant superstition, must come to you for his metalwork. Smith, he says, is Norse awkward but clear. A house of God is nearly complete. We require a bell. A bell. This is a new challenge. You have forged cowbells, small and simple things. But a church bell is a different beast entirely. It is a complex casting, requiring a precise mixture of copper and tin to create the bronze alloy. It must have a specific shape, a specific thickness, to produce a clear, resonant tone. You are intrigued by the technical problem, but you are also wary. The sound of a church bell is a foreign sound in your fjord. It is the sound of the world that is slowly, inevitably, encroaching on your own. I can cast such a thing, you say. The alloy is not so different from the bronze I use for the law minus speaker's scales. The shape is a matter of current measurement. Brother Thomas seems relieved. Good. The Lord's work must continue. His voice must be heard over this valley. You spend the next weeks on the project. The casting is difficult, but successful. You create a fine, heavy bell, its surface polished to a warm, golden sheen. You hang it from a sturdy oak beam in your forge to test its voice. You pull the rope, and the iron clapper strikes the bronze wall. The ONG. The sound is magnificent. A deep, powerful, resonant tone that echoes through your forge and out into the village. It is a strong, commanding voice. The voice of a chieftain calling his men to arms. The sound of a great hammer striking a cosmic anvil. It is a good, solid, northern cell. You are pleased with your work. A few days later, after the bell has been installed in the small wooden steeple of the new chapel, Brother Thomas returns, and he is not happy. Smith, he says, his face tight with displeasure. The bell is wrong. It does not sound right. You are genuinely baffled. What do you mean? It has a strong, clear voice. It can be heard all the way across the fjord. Oh, it is strong. Yes, Brother Thomas concedes, wringing his hands. But it is the wrong kind of strength. It is a boastful, arrogant sound. It is the sound of a pagan war minus horn. It should sound holy. It should sound like prayer. It should lift the soul to heaven. Your bell sounds like it is calling men to go raiding. You have received many strange complaints in your career, but this is perhaps the most abstract. You are being told that your bell's theology is incorrect. This complaint is a perfect microcosm of the clash of cultures that define this era. Brother Thomas is used to the sound of bells cast in the south, likely with a different bronze composition, a different shape, and, most importantly, a different culture earlier. His idea of a holy sound is one shaped by centuries of Gregorian chant and cathedral acoustics. Your ear, and thus your craft, is tuned to the Sagas, to the roar of the sea, to the clang of sword on shield. You have, without meaning to, created a Viking church bell. The historical debate here is rich. When Christianity spread into the Norse lands, how did the local craftsmen adapt their traditional styles to these new, foreign requirements? Was there a period of awkward, hybrid art, like your bell? Did southern artisans have to be brought in to teach the correct way to build a church or cast a bell? The archaeological record shows a long period of stylistic blending. Your bell is a perfect example of this transitional confusion. There is also a very obscure, technical aspect to bell minus founding lore that is relevant to you. The voice of a bell is not a single note, but a complex series of overtones. A master bell minus founder could subtly alter these overtones by making tiny adjustments to the bell shape, particularly the thickness of the sound bow where the clapper strikes. Brother Thomas is, in his own way, giving you a highly sophisticated piece of acoustic criticism. He's telling you the overtones are wrong. They sound like war, not worship. It is made of good bronze. You say, defensively, it is shaped like the bells in your own books. The shape may be right, but the spirit is wrong. He insists. It is a wild, heathen sound. It frightens the sheep-and it makes our songs sound thin and weak. You must Re minus cast it. You must give it a humbler voice. You look at the small, determined man. You know that Re minus casting the bell would be a colossal waste of time and charcoal. The bell is a good bell. The problem is not in the metal. It is in the man's ears. But he is the customer, and he is a customer protected by the jaw. I will see what can be done. You say, the words tasting like ash in your mouth. You know what you will have to do. You won't Re minus cast the bell. That would be foolish. But you will have to take it down. You will have to bring it back to your forge. And you will have to spend a week loudly hammering other things, making it seem like you are working on it. Then you will take a small grinder and subtly, carefully, alter the shape of the clapper, changing the point of impact. It might change the sound, a little, maybe, but mostly, you will be giving the bell a week to sit in silence. You are hoping that, after a week with no bell at all, Brother Thomas Sears will be a little more grateful for the sound of the one he has got. It is a risky strategy, a piece of acoustic psychology. The bell of Brother Thomas hangs once more in its small steeple, its voice subtly, almost imperceptibly, altered by your work with the grinder. Or perhaps, as you suspected, a week of silence simply made the old sound more welcome. Either way, the missionary has stopped complaining, and the fragile, acoustic peace has settled over the village. The years, which once seemed to mark, now begin to flow, a quiet, steady river carrying you along. The seasons turn, each one a little colder, a little damper than you remember. The world around you changes in slow, subtle ways. The magnificent, pattern-welded sword you forged in a fit of pride now hangs on your wall, gathering a fine layer of dust. The scales of justice you made for Thorire are now used by his son, the new law-minus speaker. The children you knew are now warriors with children of their own, bringing you their own bent swords and dented helmets. And you change, too. The fire in your forge still burns bright, but the fire in your own bones has begun to cool. The strength in your arms, once your greatest asset, is now a dwindling resource. The heavy forging hammer, the one you have wielded for so long that it feels like a part of your own body, now feels heavy. One morning, you pick it up to begin your day's work, and you feel sharp, unfamiliar pain shoot through your wrist and up your forearm. You pause, surprised. You grip the smooth, worn handle of the hammer, a handle shaped by decades of your own sweat and grit. You lift it again, preparing to strike a glowing billet on the anvil. And for the first time in your life, the movement is not effortless. It is a conscious act of will. The hammer feels alien in your hand. It feels like a tool, not an extension of yourself. You stand there for a long moment, the hot iron cooling on the anvil, the silence of the forge broken only by the soft whoosh -F whum of the bellows. Where your newest apprentice boy even land Karen more useless than Eric ever was is waiting for your first blow. But the blow doesn't come. You are confronting the final, most implacable enemy of any craftsman time. Your body, the finely tuned machine that has powered your heart for a lifetime, is beginning to wear out. The subtle, deep knowledge is still in your mind, but the strength required to translate that knowledge into steel is starting to fade. This is a quiet, personal crisis that the Sagas never speak of. The great heroes die in a blaze of glory, their swords in their hand. But what of the men who made those swords? What happens when a smith can no longer swing his own hammer? This is a transition that has no epic poetry to describe it. It is a slow, quiet, personal defeat. The historical reality for an aging craftsman in your world was likely a gradual shift in roles. A master smith would slowly delegate more of the heavy, physical work to his sons or apprentices, while he himself took on the role of a supervisor, a teacher, a quality minus control inspector. His value would shift from his physical strength to his accumulated knowledge. But for you, a man whose identity is so profoundly tied to the physical act of creation, the transition is a bitter one. You find yourself doing more of the fine, delicate work, the inlaying of silver wire, the carving of intricate patterns on a pommel. You spend more time at the grinding wheel, sharpening and polishing blades that others have forged, your old hand still remembering the perfect angle for an edge. You become a better teacher, forced to explain in words the things you once knew only in your muscles. You tell your apprentice not just what to do, but why. There's a strange, obscure piece of folklore about a smith's hammer. It was said that a master's favorite hammer, used over a lifetime, would absorb a piece of his spirit, his skill, his hammering skill, and when the old smith died, the hammer would be passed down to his chosen successor. The apprentice who inherited the master's hammer inherited a measure of his master's soul. You look at the heavy hammer in your hand. You think of all the secrets, all the stories, all the magic it has beaten into shape. You think of the thousands of nails, the dozens of swords, the soulless axes and the sacred bells it has created. It has been your voice, your will, your constant companion. And now, it is becoming your enemy. It is a tool that reminds you of your own weakness. You put the hammer down on the anvil with a soft, final minor-sounding thud. You take this one. You say to your apprentice, your voice a low rest. Let me see you work the billet. The boy's eyes widen in surprise and fear. He has never been allowed to do the primary forging on an important piece. He picks up your hammer. It is too heavy for him. He swings awkwardly, and the blow lands weakly. Off minor center. You sigh. You are not angry. You are just tired. Again, you sigh. And this time, let the hammer do the work. Don't fight it. Join its song. You step back from the anvil, from the heart of the forge, and you watch. You are no longer the singer. You are the conductor, trying to teach a new voice the ancient, powerful song of the fire and the steel. The work will go on, but it will never be the same. The fire in your forge burns lower now, its breath softer. Your apprentice, guided by your sharp eye and your tired voice, handles most of the heavy work. You have become the old man in the corner, the keeper of the secrets. Your hands, now more comfortable with a whetstone than a hammer. Your days are quieter, your world smaller. The great stories of your time, the raids, the battles, the rise and fall of Draugr are now just stories you tell the village children. Tales from a past that feels like another man's life. You know your own time is coming. You can feel it in the deep ache of your bones on a damp morning, in the way your breath catches in your throat after a short walk. The thread of your own life, spun long and strong, is beginning to grow thin, and like any good craftsman, you know that a journey's end requires a final, well-made piece of work. You decide to forge your own death minus price. Not silver or gold to be paid to a grieving family, but the iron that will accompany you on your final voyage. You send your apprentice away for a week. This is a work you must do alone. You stoke the forge fire yourself. The familiar movements, slow and deliberate. A conversation with an old friend. You are not making a weapon to fight death, or a tool to build a new life. You are making an object of pure finality. Your final project is a C- chest, not a grand, carved wooden chest like a jaw would have, but a simple, sturdy one made of dog. Whether dog from a tree you found yourself years ago. This chest will hold the things that defined your life, your favorite hammer, its handle worn to a silky smoothness, the Damascus dagger you won from the merchant Ziosimos, a reminder of a world beyond your own, the small, perfect bronze hand you cast for the law minus speaker's scales, a symbol of your integrity. These are the tools and treasures that will serve you in the next world, wherever that may be. But the chest needs a lock, and that is your final task as a smith. You will forge the lock for your own coffin. The belief in a physical afterlife was powerful and complex for your people. Grave goods were not just symbolic. They were the necessary equipment for the journey ahead and for life in the halls of Odin or the shadowy realm of Hell. The great ship burials, like the one discovered at Osberger, are a testament to this. Entire households buried with their chieftain, Your small chest is a humble version of this, your own personal ship burial. The lock is not to keep thieves out, in some instinctual way. You feel it is to keep your own spirit in, to keep your worldly self contained and complete for the voyage. You choose the iron with care. It is a billet you forged years ago, a piece of clean, honest iron with no particular history or magic to it. This is a personal work. You heat it in the fire, the orange glow lighting your wrinkled face. You work slowly, savoring each step. The clang of your hammer on the anvil is softer now. That's a song of creation in more slow, final drum beat. You forge the body of the lock, a simple, strong box of iron. You forge the shackle, thickened, unyielding, and then you forge the mechanism, the intricate system of wards and springs that will make the lock unique. This is the most complex part, a puzzle of iron that only one key can solve. As you work, you think about the key, in a strange, almost whimsical piece of smithing folklore. It was said that a lock's key should contain a piece of the smith's own self, so that the lock would always recognize its true master. Some stories claimed a smith would mix a drop of his own blood into the quench minus water for the key. Others, that a single hair would be burned with the charcoal used to heat it. You forge the key, its bow shaped like a coiled serpent, a motif you have used your entire life. When it is done, glowing a dull cherry red, you do not quench it in water or oil. You do something you have never done before. You spit into the quench minus bucket, your own breath, your own life minus essence, mingling with the water. You plunge the hot key into the bucket. It hisses, the final, sharp exhalation, in life, captured in iron. You fed the key to the lock. It turns with a smooth, satisfying click, a perfect fit. Your work is done. You have made your last object. A lock that has no complaint, no mystery, no strange spiritual requirement. Its only purpose is to close a door, quietly and forever. Use it by your cooling fire, the heavy iron lock and key in your lap. The sun is setting over the fjord, tainting the water in shades of blood and gold. You look at your hands, scarred, burned, and empty. You have spent a lifetime making things for other people, tools for their work, weapons for their wars, solutions for their fears. And now you have made one last thing, a thing just for you, a full stop, a final, well minus made silence. The forge is quiet, the fire is going out, and you are ready for the dark. The last echo of the hammer fades, the deep orange glow of the forge cools to a soft, sleeping red, then to grey, then to nothing. The scent of sudden hot metal gives way to the clean, cold smell of the fjord at night, a whisper of salt and pine on the air. Your long day's work is over. The stories are all told. The complaints are all answered. The iron is all shaped. There is a quiet, profound peace in a job well and truly finished. You can feel that same quiet settle over you now. The busy forge of your own mind, with its constant, noisy work of worrying and planning, is finally banking its fires for the night. The heavy tools of the day are being set aside. A soft, comfortable silence is expanding in your thoughts. A stillness as deep and as vast as the star-minus-filled sky over the dark, seeping water of the fjord. Let your bed be your own longhouse, a safe and sturdy hole to rest in. Let your blankets be the warm furs that keep out the night's chill. There are no more demands on your time, no more problems to solve. There is only the slow, easy rhythm of your own breathing, a tide that comes in undoubt, each wave pulling you a little further away from the shore of the waking world. You are drifting now, on a calm, dark sea, towards the quiet harbor of your deepest sleep. The journey is over. It is time to rest. The end of the article. Good night.